All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to TPI, the Total Podcast Idiots show. I'm the only idiot in the room for right now. Guards, hi. Um, Man, I know it's been a while. I said there was going to be a part three. Here it is. I know it's like a lot later than anticipated, and yeah, I'm reminded by why it's so hard to do these regularly, and it's really hard to line up schedule, like time and the motivation to do it. So yeah, I'm gonna do this one and then probably not do one for a while, but we'll see. Um, yeah, I mean, work isn't even busy right now. It's yeah, the timing plus the motivation. But I did want to get this out at some point. You know, yeah, there was a couple questions that I hadn't answered yet, and then there's been a couple topics that have come up recently. I feel like so I want to talk about those a little too. So let's just get into it. So last episode, we kind of talked about this guy, Jose Carrasco, right? And he's he was the number one prospect in the class, but now he is number two. A player has overtaken him. That would be Kendrick Dix out in the Plains. I forget exactly which state he's from. Um, so now Carrasco's number two. And so, and Carrasco committed, and congratulations to Butler on winning that battle, I guess. I guess it was a battle. I mean, congratulations on winning him for sure. But yeah. Um, I kind of disparaged Carrasco in his profile last time, and probably a little harshly, I guess. I don't know. I mean, when I look at a 5-star, I'm gonna be looking at him with a pretty heavy magnifying glass, or through, whatever the word is, through heavy filter or lens or something. Um, so yeah, he's got to be pretty dang good. And I thought I saw some flaws. And in the Discord, some discussion came up about, like, my main issue with Carrasco was his development rate, which has not been good in my opinion, for 14 pot 5-star. And it was brought up like, well, once you pass, it seems like once you pass, or a high school player specifically passes 100 skill index SI, their development rate slows down. And I think there is a lot of truth to that, certainly. I mean, but I don't know, we've seen plenty of other cases where that's not the case. I mean, even just looking at this class alone, I mean, I looked at Dix, um, I looked at Kendrick Dix, gosh darn. Uh, and his dev rate is 20, okay, so it started under 100, sure. But like even past 100, 15, 11, 11 isn't great, sure, but he's at a 5 right now. I mean, Carrasco has not developed at all through 4 updates yet this season. And so I think that does say something, with regards to his profile. Looking at number 3, Roy Gardner. Congratulations to St. Bonaventure on winning that one. Yeah, obviously he started much below 100, but then 13, 15, right? I mean, those are a lot better than the what, 11 and 10 of Carrasco, and the 14 high. So yeah, I mean, I kind of thought of a comp that I had on my own team. Brian Hoffmeister, he started at 100 SI in as a freshman, and then but he was a 17 plus 17 in his sophomore year, which I guess is kind of comparable to a plus 14 or in his freshman year. But then 12, 11, 8, which isn't great, especially for a 15 pot, right? And I'm sure, if you're Butler and you're like, hey, if Jose Carrasco has Brian Hoffmeister's career, that's great. And it is. But I don't know if you can like bank on that, I mean, 15 pot versus 14 pot is a difference. Him being 6'9" versus Carrasco being what, like 5'10", 5'9", 5'10", that's a pretty big difference. And so yeah, I mean, there are a lot of other things that go into it. But yeah, I mean, Hoffmeister was a plus 48 in high school, and then he was a plus shoot, I should have done that math a lot quicker. Plus 60, um man, 69 in college. So yeah, I mean, if Carrasco has something like that, he's plus 35, so we're looking at like a plus 55, maybe a plus 60, right? I mean, so he'll break 200, or high 190s. I mean, that's good. That's a good player. Is it worth spending a lot of points on. I mean, probably. I mean, I spent 150 points on Hofmeister, so if I only had only spent 50 contacts to get Carrasco, maybe that would have been worth it, but I don't know. Anyways, congratulations to Butler on that. And yeah, I think that's how I wanted to talk about that. Um, let's see. The two questions I wanted to address, oh, these injuries suck. Um, were how I built my team. And I know this topic has kind of probably lost its luster since it's been a couple weeks since the championship and I had players graduate, so we can't even look at those guys and stuff. But I mean, we can still look at like this team because I build the team the same way. And the main thing there's a few main things. I would start with how I recruit, right? And so I usually alternate between seasons of recruiting two players and three players, right? And so um basically that puts me on a cycle of having um I'm not good at math. 13 players sometimes 12 players on roster, on scholarship on roster, right? I mean, sometimes I have 11 actually a lot of the time though. And then, usually two or three of them are redshirting, right? And so, um, yeah, I mean, that's how it goes. And so then I usually have like a 9 or 10 man rotation. It's just how I like to run it. And then, so that allows me to play my style of like everyone gets a good amount of minutes. I can rest guys at times, limit guys' minutes, prioritize development for my bench guys, but then have room for like pushing the minutes when I need to, or if I feel the need to. Um, so yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I do it. I always try to get a big each season, which is getting tougher and tougher because I think in the Discord we've really harped on like the importance of big men. And it's, people are really taking that to heart, I think. I've seen some like 9 pot bigs got in just because they're tall, which I mean, I understand it, yeah. Um, but man, I mean, or just like some really flawed bigs just because they're tall. It's a tough world out there for any level team. So yeah, it's getting tougher. I've had to go out of state or out of region for a lot of players lately. I think my class last season was all out of region technically, right? Jeffers and Godfrey here. Um, and then Griffin, my big man, this class is out of region. And then when I recruit two players in the class, I get like a general perimeter player. So this is a guy who can probably play like 1 through 3 point guard, shooting guard, small forward. So I look for skills that pertain to that. So think of like the Marcus Fords, Bill Marshalls, uh, Vondre Lynch, Austin Verns. These are all guys that I've had in my uh for Dominican. So if you don't know who they are, go to my alumni page and find them. And there's plenty other examples. Sherman Boyer, Glenn Wolfe, Lucas Cunningham. I'm reading off a list, obviously. Yeah. And then in years of three recruits, I obviously recruit a big man, and then I'll get a guy who's like more of a pure point guard. So like think like a Louis Hickman last year. And then a wing. So think like a Barry Ford or a Russ Profit, one of my seniors from last year. And so obviously it's okay to veer off course off that plan sometimes. You kind of have to sometimes, you don't win every recruiting battle. There's sometimes a player doesn't develop how you want them to, or it doesn't grow how you want them to. So you have to kind of pivot. Um, I had to take two junior college players a few seasons ago, because I missed on, I think uh a guard wasn't developing how I wanted to, and then a forward wasn't developing how I wanted him to. I forget exactly. Um, or I missed on a guard and I had a forward at, yeah. And so, yeah, I had to take two JUCOs and, obviously, yeah, 5 stars because, most people don't redshirt 5 stars. Some people do. And so, for a team that redshirts pretty much everybody, when you don't redshirt someone, it throws things off. And so then you got to adjust stuff with that. So yeah, and I mean, I'm not saying don't take 5 stars, definitely take a swing if you have the points for it, and can make a room. But, it's not just like go for a 5 star just he's the best and he's a 5 star. Like have a plan, right? And that's what I've always had and harped on people who ask me for help or that I talk to a lot. I think I've probably said this. I usually have like 5 seasons mapped out, 5 seasons into the future mapped out, sometimes more. I've heard of people having like more than that. I'm like, that seems a little hard because those players haven't even like been born yet. So yeah, but yeah, I'd say have a plan and try to stick to it as much as possible, but have flexibility to pivot. Yeah. Um, I usually run pretty big teams out there. I think that's another characteristic of one of my my teams. Last year's team now, they were, I think, exceptionally tall. I mean, so we had Grace 6'11, we had Rainey Watson who's 6'11 and a half, we had Marshall Cook at 6'10, uh Farmer was 6'9. 6'9 is not super tall. I'd say the other guys were like more tall, right? But yeah, I mean that was a pretty big characteristic for my team. And it helped. Height does help, size, yeah, it does help. When I won in 2028 with Cal, I had 2 7-footers in my starting lineup. Um, so yeah, I mean, that was pretty good. Um, and then, you can see with some of my newer guys, Joey Wilson, or is he this one? I think I'm kind of doing it blind with my notes up too. Joey Wilson and Kwame Farmer, and then Stevie Jeffers, who's redshirting. They're not the tallest guys, certainly, but hey, stop. Okay. Um, so, yeah, it's kind of we're not as big as we used to be. So, I'm not expecting as big of things. Um, but yeah, it's not like I need my teams to be ultra big though. It's more about skill mixing in with size. It's all again, it's as I think I said last episode, like it's all this interplay between the skills and size and tactics, right? And coaches and so it's not just like one size fits all. People say like find what find your system and make things fit or like find players that fit, but like it's easier said than done. Sometimes you kind of have to like adjust some other things too. I mean, I have a general structure and I just like make it very fluid, basically. I know it's very vague. It's kind of vague because like it's really hard to explain and especially like over this format and because there's some stuff I want to try to keep a little more to myself sometimes. Um and it's also like it's not that I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's just hard to explain, I guess, is the main thing. But anyways, um, I'll get into like more specifics though. What I've always prioritized is defense and shooting, and particularly outside shooting, the OS rating, right? So I think if you look at my teams, like I'm usually pretty good at like these. You can see every player I've recruited is a 9 or higher. I mean, Jeffers, come on, man, you're slacking. Um, in OS, and then usually depending on like if they're a perimeter player, I prefer they have range that's pretty good, and if they're a big man, I prefer they have interior scoring that's good. Obviously, there's some misfits in there. Russ Profit was a wing, but he had single digit range. You can see Jack Grace is a big man. He has single digit IS. Um, Same with Marshall Cook, right? So, yeah, it's not like steadfast rules on those. And then the other big thing I do is defense. And so you can see perimeter guys very strong in perimeter defense typically, and interior guys very strong in interior defense typically. And so I mean that's pretty simple. I would think at least. So yeah, I mean, it's like size, skill, and then I usually like to think of it as like speed and strength as well. I think I do a pretty job of like looking for those. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think those are pretty simple. It's not like I'm breaking the game with this, you know. But it's all about like what you prefer. Like I said, I like how UVA plays basketball. I like the slow defensive games, right? Um, so I kind of modeled my teams a little after that, right? Me personally, when I play basketball, I love defense. Not everyone does. not everyone wants their team to play like that. Not everyone, likes that. There's some teams out there that run, +5 tempo press all the time, has everyone on double plus green light. So, they're probably looking for like speed. They're going to prioritize speed and IQ and maybe handling and obviously shooting, right? Shooting and range and, maybe prioritize defense a little less, maybe prioritize passing a little less, right? Um, so yeah, but I would say like in general, like a higher rating in anything is better than a low rating. Um, yeah, so those are like the specific ratings. I mean, speed and IQ, I think are and strength are like the modifier ratings or skills, right? And so like people ask like, oh, what does IQ affect? Or like, what does speed affect? Or what does, do fast players flourish in fast-paced tempo and slow players slow in slow pace. It's like no, those are just like the skills are just like modifiers for like everything else, right? So yeah, that's that, I guess. Yeah, I like that question because I've always like wanted to verbalize how I build my teams, but never really like been able to. So yeah, so yeah, anyways, I build my team around defense and efficient shooting. Um, And, I typically like my offense to be pretty balanced. So or egalitarian is a good word for it, so like I like for everybody to be able to score, um, be a threat to score. You saw that I think pretty good with my team last year. Although I kind of narrowed it down once tournament time came. And then I also like where we score from. So I don't like it when I am focused only on the shooting threes or only scoring in the paint. I try to like spread it out. Again, it's like less predictable, harder to game plan for. Yeah, so I think that's how I try to do it. And I talked about positional versatility through my run, and that was a factor for my success. And I think it was definitely fun to utilize last year, but I'm not really sure how effective it is, especially like in this type of game where you have such high turnover with players and rosters. You have to deal with like the positional ratings and players learning positions, growing, and that's going to come with a lot of growing pains. um and so I even prepared my team for like several seasons, at least one season ahead of last year. So back in 2037, I really prepared for that like positional versatility by like playing guys all over the court, wherever I thought they would be needed eventually, right? So let's go back to like 2037 and look at the minutes of some guys that were crucial, right, for my 2038 run. So, Watson, he was splitting center and power forward, Ford, small forward, point guard. He played a lot of point guard over the run, so that was important. These two guys were seniors. Ford got minutes, mostly shooting guard and small forward, but a little bit of point guard. Not that he played there much. Hickman, mostly point guard, but if you look at Hickman, he started out getting like a lot of minutes at shooting guard. I want to say in 2036. Yeah, you see like almost 13 minutes a game at shooting guard off the bench then. So yeah, I started prepping him for that. Grace was combo big, Cook combo big a little more, but leaning power forward, right? Profit combo wing. So yeah, I definitely prep my team more like throughout the season. So yeah, yeah, and then it was all about like where I thought I would need them eventually or in certain situations, because there's different types of players in hardwood, obviously. So you have obviously your sharp shooters and your prototypical bigs, but then there's also like big perimeter players. I think I play Southern Illinois tomorrow, and I am going up against a backup shooting guard who's 6'9", and I'm like, what the heck? So, there's those type of guys. There's slashing perimeter players, guys, perimeter players who don't shoot threes, right? Stretch bigs. So, you want to like try to start to mold your team to be able to defend all different types of guys, but it's hard, so it's like when I'm at the I'm in Legends. I've been in Legends for, I don't know, 11 seasons or something. So yeah, I can like pick pretty talented players to be able to do that. An LL6 team, LL5 team may not be able to. Um, Maybe you can mold your guy to be better to be able to do that, but it's hard. So, um, yeah, just lots to think about with this game. So, I'll move on to what do you feel is the main difference between your team last season and the other great teams that I've had that couldn't quite make it to the very top of winning Legends or winning the national title? And I mean, that's such a good question. But I think it's a pretty simple answer. It was having four seniors. I had Marcus Ford, Randy Watson, Russ Profit, and Louis Hickman. And so the last three of those, Watson, Profit, and Hickman, were redshirt seniors as well. Um, and so, while we're still not sure there's like a chemistry aspect to Hardwood, there's definitely something to be said about experience. I think we've all had this phenomenon where we like start starting a redshirt freshman or redshirt sophomore or true freshman at point guard, and they just like suck, turning the ball over a lot. That the team is just not humming, right? Or even like a true freshman or redshirt freshman, like starting any position really. Like they struggle, right? Typically. Um, and I think that's just, they're young, they're inexperienced. So seniors, on the other hand, overperform kind of, it seems like, or at least more consistent or something, which taking anything as consistent in hardwood is a fool's gold, foolhardy, something like that. Um, yeah. So, but yeah, I think experience matters. And yeah, my team had a lot of it, so obviously those seniors, but then I had Cook and Ford being redshirt sophomores, Grace being a redshirt junior. Yeah, so that was important. Um, and I'd say my last real surprise team back in 2034 also had four seniors. That was a team that like I forget exactly what happened. Like, was I on a work trip for a month in the middle? I forget, but it had four seniors and it like almost demoted from Legends. But then I won the conference tournament, I believe. I want to say, let me go back here. Yeah, I did not win the conference tournament, but I had a losing record in Legends in conference, and then I made it to the Final Four somehow. Uh, and I think, yeah, a lot of that was because I had four seniors. Um, Something caught fire. I mean, that was Bill Marshall caught fire. And yeah, the seniors just like stepped up and um yeah, I mean that team wasn't that good and they made it the Final Four somehow. So it was weird. I'd say, that's a weakness of my like recruiting strategy of like alternating between two and three players. I'll never have four seniors unless I stray from that. So yeah, there's times where I have to stray from it. And then that happens. Yeah, Marcus Ford, he didn't redshirt as a five-star, so he became that fourth senior. Andrew Grace, I think, was the fourth senior in 2034 as a five-star. So, or Reed as a JUCO big, I forget. Yeah. Um, I mean, those are all, I think, things to think about and consider. I don't think like, again, there's no steadfast hard rules with hardwood, which I like. Um, So yeah, just take all of this like as a grain of salt. Like don't try to like have a super senior team. Don't try to have like a rotation of all seniors, right? A 10-man rotation of seniors and like, that's just suicide, I think. That's not building for your future. I think I've had a sustained run of success because I've like balanced prioritizing winning now and building for the future like very consistently. And I think, how I've built the team lends to that, right? And how I run things. So, it's all about like what you want to accomplish and like how you like to have fun and have success in this game. Some people really like the up and down, the hills and peaks and valleys, and I'm more of like let's just like hum at this like steady pace here. and I mean, if you knew me as a runner, that's not how I run or anything. If you knew me as a basketball player, that's not how I play basketball. I'm very like irky jerky. I'm like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander or someone. But yeah, that's those are the two questions I wanted to finish up with. Another question I had, but because I let 2 weeks of the season pass, who's your early favorite for next season? I had a bunch of teams pulled up, but I mean now it's all changed because we've had games and I mean yeah, some teams have lived up to it, some teams haven't. So, yeah, it's like, ouch, I'm minus 13 because I lost today. I got destroyed by UCLA today. Not great, but it happens. So, I'm not complaining. Um, there was one thing in the Discord I think I wanted to talk about, but I can't even remember what. But I would just if you haven't been over to Discord yet, go over, check it out. I believe, and maybe this will be broadcast better because I'm talking about it. But I personally made like a Discord link that should never expire. So here it is. Go to this thread in the forums and check out Discord because there's a lot of good discussion going on there. I think a couple new players have been asking like such good questions and so many questions like um yeah, you want to learn from like more experienced players, but you also want to learn from like new players going through the process too. So um yeah, go check it out and learn a bunch and become better because you certainly will become better. I credit a lot of my success to Discord and the forums too, in just learning. I'm not like naturally good at these things typically. So yeah. Yeah. Again, leave a comment or like, subscribe, whatever. I mean, I don't really care. I'm not in this for clout. Um, but hopefully you enjoy the video in this short run of, this retrospective. I'll definitely t make some more episodes at some point, when the iron is hot and I have the motivation and the time and there's just something to talk about. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's fun to talk about hardwood always. I mean, it's like it's been in my life for over 4+ years. I wanted to do this on my 4-year anniversary, but that passed a few days ago. So, but it's been a lot of fun, and I'm not done yet. So don't worry, y'all. But yeah, yeah. All right. I'm gonna stop sharing. I guess I'll stop recording. Um, Let me know if there's anything else you want me to talk about though. Like shoot me questions and I'm willing to discuss them, whether that be in PM or on an episode, because yeah, I mean if they're more private, if they're more like specific to your team, it'll be PM. But if they're like pretty broad questions, I can definitely talk about them in an episode. Um, who's the one commenting? Minnesota Crookston. I only have game 10 available now as a rivalry game, so uh if you want to schedule me, I guess, I don't know. I mean, I kind of want to keep it open right now just because I've had all my rivalry spots like locked up for the past few seasons, so I want to keep one open right now. Um, although I don't know, your team isn't that threatening in the future. So, good luck building it though. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Hopefully you listened to my advice from last episode. I mean, you commented, so I assume you did. But also don't post like comments with 3 profiles. I guess that like improves our engagement, but like that's super weird. I don't know. Don't get me started on having multiple profiles. Anyways, um, I think I've rambled on for long enough. Signing off. TPI. See you later.